Region of Durham Economic Development, and I'm also joined tonight by my colleague Stacy Jibb. So I'll just quickly go over some housekeeping items. So I'm sure at this point you're all very familiar with them, but there is the mute and unmute button. So if you're not speaking, we'll ask that you stay on mute. And if you have a question, feel free to unmute and ask away. And if you are experiencing issues with bandwidth, sometimes we find it helps to turn the video off. So we'll leave it up to you, whatever works best. And with that, I'm pleased to welcome Asif from the Durham-based company GroundLevel Insights. Asif will be giving us a demonstration of the CANATRACE health screening tool that they developed. So with that, I would like to thank Asif for joining us and taking the time tonight. And with that, I'll pass it over to you. The floor is yours.
Thanks so much. Great to be here, and thanks for everyone for putting this together at Durham Farm Fresh and the Durham regional folks, Allison and Stacy and the team. We're excited to be able to kind of bring what we've been doing for a while now and to support the agricultural sector. So I'm just going to pop up a slide here. Can everybody see my slides? Yes? All right, good. So welcome to CANATRACE, which is a initiative out of my company based in Durham region. We're in Pickering, called GroundLevel Insights. And CANATRACE is a 100% free platform, so a social good offering that we launched back in the first week of November to help businesses with the government requirements for contact tracing and employee screening. And in just over 4 months, we've grown this platform and brought it to businesses of all sectors and all industries to just over almost 5,000 businesses now today. And the way we've gotten there is with the help of organizations like Durham Region and Invest Durham and Durham Farm Fresh and folks like this that are helping make this happen tonight and helping spread the word. And so, like I said, it's partners like this that help us get the word out about a free tool that really it was designed to sort of take that burden away from the business owner. You're really good at what you do, which is, farming and feeding us and filling us with great, fruits and vegetables and all the things that we need to live. Your core competency is not, I would suggest, collecting people's contact tracing data and managing data and security and privacy. But we are a data analytics company. And so we felt this was a way that we could lend a hand and give back and do what we do best in this tool. And that was kind of the reason that we wanted to do this. We just kept seeing pre-lockdown so many businesses doing this on pen and paper clipboards at the door of the restaurant that you'd walk into, or that store or that farm market, or and then even worse on the employee side, same thing for screening. So we wanted to kind of find a way to help out with that, and hence was born CANATRACE. And all it is really is a platform that starts with a QR code. We create a custom QR code for every business that wants to use this. Custom being that it's branded with your logo for your business. So when people scan the QR code with their phone, it comes up with a start page with your logo, and I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes. And then it takes you through the required screening questionnaires, depending on what those might be for your particular region or color zone in the province, because the questions are different if you're in red versus if you're in yellow, or those types of things, and manages that process. And then on the data side, under the current privacy legislation in both Canada and in the provincial legislation, you're only allowed to keep the data for 30 days at a time. In fact, you're required to keep the data for 30 days at a time, but you can't keep it longer than that. So we're actually, all the data that's collected through the platform is deleted every 30 days. So it's just the last 30 days worth of data. And two, you're not allowed to use this data that's collected for contact tracing and employee screening for anything other than public health follow-up purposes. So essentially, its only purpose is in the case of, there is a positive COVID case and public health has started a contact tracing process, that they can get in touch with you and you can provide that list, that log, or we can provide it on your behalf to them so they can follow up with the people who may have been exposed. And the same goes on the employee side. In that case, though, it would be Ministry of Labor who's coming with their inspectors to make sure you're doing things in the proper way. So that's essentially what CANATRACE is. We, as I said, we kind of put it out there for any business that wants it. And just organically, it's kind of grown to every sector. We started with sort of the bar and restaurant industry where, they had to collect this for any guests or visitors coming in. And it's grown to, business services, factories, industrial settings, and now into the agriculture sector. And we have a number of farms and farm markets that are starting to use this, both in the case of the markets for obviously guests and customers coming in, and on the other side for employee screening with workers at those markets or in the fields themselves with temporary foreign workers, migrant workers coming in. So I'll kind of just pause there for the moment. And just see if there's any questions. And then what I'm going to do is shift over and actually show you what some of this stuff looks like in terms of, when you click on or scan a QR code and go through the process. So any questions?
It looks like Cindy has her hand up. Go ahead, Cindy.
Thank you. Hi, Asif. Thank you very much for your presentation so far. It's very intriguing. I had a question for you regarding accessing the information for the contact tracing. Do you require some type of documentation, or how is that process formalized to ensure that, I guess, the individual who's asking for it actually does need it at that time?
Yeah, so basically there's only kind of two ways that data gets released, right? So either public health contacts us and we release the data to them on behalf of the business, or you as the business owner operator can also have direct access to it, because at the end of the day, the liability sits with you. You're the one that actually is responsible for collecting the data. So you can have access to it and you can release the data on your own, if the inspector's there. Because sometimes what happens is, especially on the employee side, often we hear of, Ministry of Labor inspectors are just going around making sure people are actually doing the screening and following the rules. And they'll often say, let me see your log, of the people who've, scanned in. And so just having real-time access to it is a good thing for the business owner in that context. But those would be the only scenarios that we would see that.
Okay, great, thank you. And sorry, one more question. You had mentioned its applicability for temporary foreign workers. Is it also available in Spanish by chance or other languages?
Yes, it is. And so I'll show you that in just a second. So
I will wait with bated breath.
Yeah. So just to kind of shift over. So one of the first farms that we started working with is Top Tomato Foods up in York Region. And they actually were using it at the tail end of last season, and started playing around with it then as we first launched it into the marketplace. And so here's a quote from Nancy over at Top Tomato. And they were actually, to answer your specific question, the ones who prompted us to add the Spanish language support specifically. And we were happy to do that because we know how important it is, for those workers in particular. Not that they all speak Spanish, but many do, right? And it's very important that way. We're actually talking to a group down in southwestern Ontario right now that's asking about German language, because some of the workers that work some of those fields are German speaking as well. So we're always open to that, and we're very flexible to adapting the platform to the needs of the market from that point of view. And then the last thing I'll show you on the slides here before I jump over and actually show you a live version of the system is when somebody signs up to have a QR code for their business. And I should point out, many businesses have two QR codes. They'll have one for, let's say in your case, the market, like the guest or visitor facing part of the business, and a separate one that is for employees. And the reason for that is that the types of questions that you ask are different. So it's a much simpler set of questions and from a symptom screening point of view for the guest side, and versus on the employee side, the province has very strict, sort of, questions that they want you to go every day with employees. So that's also, something we do quite often for many businesses. I don't know, is Rob on the call? No? Yes? I see him in there. Rob's not on the call. Okay. Anyways, Rob from Nature's Bounty, we chatted earlier in the week, and we set him up on the system just, sort of as to show for tonight. But essentially, when we create these QR codes, we obviously can send you the image file for the QR code, but we also automatically embed it into a poster with your logo and send that off to you as well. Just to make it easy, you can just print that off and start right away. And so an example of that would be here. You can see we've just taken the Nature's Bounty logo, dropped their QR code into the poster, and it's as simple as that. Now this one is set up for customer facing, visitor facing, but you get the idea. Any questions on that? No? Okay. So I'm just going to shift over from the slides to show you live now what this kind of looks like. So give me 1 second. Pop over here. All right. Do you see my browser now? Yes? Okay.
Yep.
So this is the CANATRACE website. So if this is something you want to get involved in and use for your business, you can just go to canatrace.com and you can read more all about it here, learn about how it works. And then this button right here in the middle of the page, sign up for free, is basically what you would do to register the business. You can also go to the top right where it says sign up in the main menu as well. Either way, when you click on it, it's going to bring you to a simple 1-page registration. Literally, it takes about a minute to fill out. So your contact information, your business name, the industry sector, the address, and probably the thing will take you the longest, to be honest, is finding your logo file and then uploading it so that we can brand it for you. And that's it. It's as simple as that. There's the little privacy declaration here saying that we only keep the data for 30 days and we follow all the privacy laws in the country and so on. And that's it. You submit, and it'll come back and it'll say, we'll send you your files within 24 hours. Usually it's more like 2 or less, and it's back to you. And that's essentially all you have to do to register your business. So now let's get into the fun of it, and I'll show you actually what it looks like. So if you remember the poster I just showed you for Nature's Bounty, what we're going to do is we're going to hop over here now. And so pretend you took out your camera on your phone and you scanned the QR code. So when you do that, this is where it brings you to. So again, this one's set up for guests or visitors coming in, but you can see it's branded. And you would go through and you see we take the name of the business embedded in the text here, and then you would simply click start. I will point out to the question asked earlier, if you look in the top right corner, these are the language selections. So I can switch this to Spanish on the fly or French. We started out from day one with the platform bilingual, English, French, and then added the Spanish, as I said, at the request of Top Tomato initially. So that's how easy it is. You click start, and now it's going to take you through whatever the requirements are for your part of the province, color code, zone, etc. So in this case, for guest facing in the zone that we're in, it's pretty straightforward. It's contact information. By the way, you see here, it also supports something called autofill, meaning that if you're used to filling out forms on your phone, you don't have to always enter all the information. You can just pull it automatically, which is what I'm doing here, to make it faster for subsequent times. So I'm going name, email address, phone number. And now we'll get into currently in the province, there are 5 standard screening questions. that are required for everybody. Do you have any of the following symptoms? Yes, no. Have I traveled in the last 14 days? Sorry, have I been in contact with anybody without proper PPE last 14 days? Have I traveled outside of the country? Have I been told I should be isolating at home by a healthcare provider? Have I received a COVID alert notification? And am I currently living with anybody that has symptoms or experiencing symptoms? So this is what's required by the province currently in terms of screening questions. And then that's it. And then you say everything I've just answered is true, and and whatnot, your declaration, and then you hit OK. And at the end of that, what you will get is a checkmark success screen. And you can see it has the person's name from what they entered on the first screen and the date and the time. And that's essentially what's really important, because if, to the question earlier about the data, if public health were to come and say, hey, we need your data for the last 30 days, somebody's tested positive who says they were at your farm store, on last Tuesday at 3 p.m. or whatever it is, they can go and they can quickly look to see who was there within an hour on either side that may have been exposed and start their tracing process from there. They don't need to go and look, for all hours of every day. They can start, from that point in time, right? So the timestamp is incredibly important to that process. Any questions on that? No? We're good? Okay, awesome. All right, so let me, what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to flip over and I'm gonna show you another one. So here's another one I set up with Durham Farm Fresh logo. And this time, this particular one I've set up for employee screening. So it's follows the current requirements in the province for employee screening. And if anyone's been doing this yet, you'll know that the questions are more detailed, and there's actually different symptoms that have to be screened if you're an employee over 18 versus under 18. So let me show you how that works. Yeah, I'll just do it this way. So this time we go name. And you'll see here we've added this field for some businesses, and this doesn't have to be here, but you don't necessarily need a email address for employees, right? Or maybe in the case of farm workers, they don't even have an email address. For some of the temporary foreign workers and so on. Maybe they just have an employee ID number. So, they can just enter that in, whatever that is. And then you're into this gating of the symptoms by age. So if I say I'm over 18, now you see here the symptoms are much more detailed. They're individual. This is, again, required by the province on employee screening. And so you would go through and answer each one. Or I can just click no to all if that is the case. And then I would go okay. And then I'm into the same standard questions that are required for everybody, both employees as well as for guest facing stuff. And so I'll go through that process. I'm going to say no, no, no. And then assuming that's all good, again, I'm going to get my check mark success screen. Just for fun, I'm going to do it one more time. But this time I'm going to say let's just go under 18. You see the list is shorter this time. So for example, if you without going into too much detail, if you're over 18, for example, one of the symptoms is you're prone to falling often. That's not a symptom if you're under 18, apparently, according to the province. So you would do that. But actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yes, I have fever or chills. And maybe I'll say I have a runny nose, and I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go no to the rest. And now you'll see I don't get a check mark. I get this instead. And so for most businesses, obviously they're having their employees or their workers do this as they come into the job site, into the workplace, right? And so for a lot of places, there's a security person that they have to show this check mark or this thing to before they can enter the building, or show it to the foreman on the job site, or whatever it is before they're allowed to start working for that day. And so that's typically how a lot of businesses are kind of moving forward with this kind of thing. And even on the guest side too, like a lot of the restaurants, for example, they're asking, the server is asking to see your check mark before they'll take your order, or those kinds of things. So again, in that scenario, it's really up to you as the sort of manager of the workplace to decide how you're going to manage your own staff and how you want to manage the the sort of validation aspect. But the data is there, the check mark is there or not, and then you can handle it as you see fit from that point of view. Any other questions there? And again, the language is there for on all of it throughout. No, we're still good. All right. So the last thing I'll point out then is the data side. So as I mentioned, you can also have access to the data, to basically go through and see that, if you're using it for your staff, for example, your employees, that to ensure that people are actually doing it every day. A lot of folks will, on a nightly basis, check the logs to ensure that their staff are doing it, and so that if they're not, they can be following up the next day, and reinforcing that it's important to do that, because it is required currently under the provincial rules under the Ministry of Labour rules. So I'll show you what that looks like as well. So essentially, you would have access to a dashboard that looks something like this. You log in with a username and password, and it brings you to a page like this. And there's a simple little graph that can kind of show you how many people have filled it out each day. I'm currently logged into the Nature's Bounty one. But what's important is if I click on this button here on the bottom right where it says see all, this is the actual log of the data itself. So you can see Rob scanned it back on the 15th, and I just scanned it tonight, and you can see that there. So every time somebody fills it out, the data is there and stored for 30 days. So it's only the last 30 days worth of data. And if you had, let's say, more than one QR code, let's say you had one for, say, the farm store and one for employee screening, you would be able to see both in the same dashboard. Just up here, there would be in this drop-down list, there'd be one saying store and one saying employees or something, however we named them, and the data would be separated. So, but you would have access to it all in a single dashboard from that point of view. If you ever needed to go and get your QR code file again, you can come over here to QR code resources and pull the file down. So that's right there. And then the other thing that's kind of handy is if the inspectors are on site, or the public health people come over and say, hey, we need your list for the last 30 days. You can also click this button here on the top right-hand side where it says download file, and it'll actually download it as an Excel file that you can just send off to them on an email or printout or do whatever you want to do. And that's nice to have too, from just keeping your own copy of the records. Any other questions I can answer? No? So I guess the final last thing to say is that, it's here, it's for you, it's to support your businesses. It's 100% free service. There's no cost involved. We're keeping it free forever. It's just our way to help out in tough times. And, we really do want to support, the agricultural sector with this. We think it's an important part of our economy. An incredibly important part of our economy. And we know last year we heard about some of the outbreaks at different places. If we can slow that down in some way or save lives in some way, that's our only mission here. And so, we're here to support you. And now's the time to get on board with this, right? It's, everybody's starting to hire up and bring those temporary foreign workers in. And I think it's the opportune time to really get behind it. we've got a number of groups that are currently using it besides Top Tomato. I know the Village Market up in Thornhill started using it as they opened up last weekend for the market itself. The Western Fair District is using it in what they're doing out there. We've got up in Blue Mountain area, Duntroon Cider is doing some cool things with it up there. So there's a number of different groups that are involved with it currently, and we would love, as we're a Durham company, we would love Durham Farms to really get behind this and work with us on it. So that's it. That's all I got.
Steve, I just noticed that I think Nancy and Alex have questions.
Oh, okay.
Mine's not a question. I just wanted to let you know I was here. So if anybody has questions about how we're using it, we're from Top Tomato Foods, or you may know us as 19th Avenue Farmers Market. So if anybody has questions about how we've been using it and how we plan on using it going into the season, I'd be more than happy to answer those for you as well.
Nancy, why don't you just go ahead and share how you're planning to use it? That would be great.
Rachel, I got to ask you.
Sure, no problem. So we, our initial plan is to use it really just for our employees. So we had originally asked if we could translate this to Spanish, and we were accommodated, which was great. So we have the QRC code posted within all of our temporary foreign workers buildings, at our market, and within where our time clock is, and on our office door. So it's printed everywhere. It's also sent out in all the communication upon arrival for all of our workers. And we have a health and safety coordinator who on a daily basis goes into the dashboard and is able to sort the information by employee number to give us an indication if anybody has not done it. And then we can communicate through our WhatsApp group that we have with all of our employees to advise anybody who hasn't completed the form or the document, or the CANATRACE, sorry. So it allows us to ensure that employees are following up and they know that we're checking it. And I gotta be honest, it's peace of mind for us. It's one less thing. We had tried doing paper versions over the past couple months. It's cumbersome, it's a lot of responsibility, it's tracking. This kind of takes, with all the things we're trying to do right now, this kind of takes a big piece of it off of our shoulders and automates it for us. And I think it's a brilliant idea for anyone who's got a farm that has fun activities or where they're selling tickets, because it's something that you can actually embed in part of your communication before your customers come to the farm to have them complete that. And then they just have to show whoever's checking them in the check mark. So I think it's a brilliant, easy to use app. And I actually attend 2 or 3 other businesses that use this app as well as a consumer, and so easy, so convenient, so it works well. So I don't know if I think that covers it. If there's anything else, feel free to ask, but I think it's great. We asked for the employee number because email didn't make sense for us from the employee perspective with temporary foreign workers. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
I was just going to say,
Alex has a question.
Yeah, is that Leslie? Because I know Leslie had a question as well.
I don't think Leslie's mic is working, so we'll have to read her question out of the chat.
Okay, this is Alex here. Can I just jump in for a second?
Go ahead, Alex.
First of all, I really like the look of this. This is a fantastic looking app. I'm very intrigued and very interested in it. So thank you for putting this on tonight. My question, we have a small farm here which would have people visiting through the summer, not in large numbers, but enough that we would need to trace them. Let's say, for example, somebody didn't have the phone or something happened and we had a manual requirement to take their data. Is it possible to add it into the Excel spreadsheet format, or is there a vehicle for doing it to add it in manually?
I'm going to assume yes, because anybody can scan. So as long as you've got your own phone or your own device, Asaph, jump in if I'm wrong, but you can scan that QRC code and just enter that customer's information for them.
Okay, right. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So so the kind of the best practices that we've seen out there are exactly what Nancy just said. What some businesses do is they'll have a tablet available for those that don't have a phone with them, and they'll have it sort of already loaded up on the tablet. Even on the worker side of things, you know, maybe some of the workers don't have phones, right, or those kinds of things. Just having a tablet there with the screening form already loaded up and having them go through it is an easy one. The other thing on the data side, if you are doing some paper still, obviously you can download the spreadsheet as an Excel file and then add in the other data for that day into your file, your local file. So that's another way to do it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll just read out Leslie's question from the chat here. How do you handle guests that may not pass but refuse to leave the farm? What have businesses done?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like at the end of the day, I'll answer it from a legal liability point of view. Your only obligation as the farm is to make sure you're asking the questions, right? And doing the screening. And if somebody's not being truthful on that, that's not on you. That's on them. If somebody gets the red exclamation mark and chooses makes a fuss and wants to stay, you're fully within your rights to refuse them at that point, right? Because that's just what the current rules are. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, your obligation is to do the screening. That's what the ministry is asking you to do, and we're here to just give you a tool to do that digitally and securely. And how you handle that with your own business, is up to you, right? I mean, what I will say is on the employee side, we've seen some businesses that are a little more flexible. So if somebody's like, they want everybody to be truthful, but if somebody screens in and the employee says, I have a headache today as one of the symptoms, some employers will say, okay, we can live with a headache. That's okay. You're still allowed to work. Right. But that's their decision, right? That's, and so it's really an individual business by business decision at that point. But I would say if they screen and they get a red mark, you're fully within your rights to turn them away. Yeah. Any other questions there? I did want to point out one thing that Nancy touched on briefly, and that is when you're using the tool, and I'll go back to, let's just say this one here. So you've got this QR code and you've got it posted and printed and people can scan it. You don't need to necessarily scan the QR code. So for some businesses, especially, for example, a lot of the medical practitioners we work with, dentists, doctors, etc., people book appointments, right, to come into that business. And so what they'll do is when they make their booking, they'll send an email confirmation. And what they can do in the email confirmation is this link up at the top here. This page that it's bringing to you when you scan the QR code is a unique URL for your business. So you can actually just use that URL and send it out in an email as well. And they can just click on that link and it'll bring them right to the start of the screening process. So it's another way to get there without scanning the QR code as well. So just to point that out. Alex?
Yeah, just to go on that point about what you're saying, sending it out in advance. How far in advance of a visit could that still be applicable?
So it depends on the business. So if you're talking like on the retail side, you can send it out typically, within 24 hours is fine. The requirements are much more lax there. On the
Yeah.
employee side, under the ministry regulations, you're required to do what they classify as active screening, meaning it has to be done as they come into the workplace. It cannot be done, beforehand. Some people will try to do it like an hour before they arrive at work, and seems to be okay. The ministry's sort of letting that go. But doing it the day before, or whatever, is not. It doesn't fly, right? And that's the thing is it's got that date and time on it, right?
Sure.
So some people have tried to say, I'll fill it out, now, and I'll take a screenshot of it, and then I'll try and show that 3 days later. It doesn't work. That's why it's important to have somebody that's looking at the check marks,
Right,
and looking at that time.
Yeah. So it's for visitors. I was thinking if you're sending out a pre-advanced ticket or something, so you could still do that in 24 hours and it would be fine.
Yep, that's fine.
Lovely, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else I can answer? Nancy, anything else you want to add?
So what do you say? Not much more to add. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to tell you from a business, our usage, and our experience. And good luck this season, everyone.
Yeah. All right. Well, if that's it, I'll pass back over to the powers that be here, our organizers, Stacy and Allison and Tammy, and we'll let it go.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So I would like to thank you, Asif, for taking the time to present to us tonight and showing us all of the features and applications that CANATRACE has to offer. Sounds like it'll be a very valuable tool, and is a very valuable tool for a lot of businesses. So we really appreciate you going over this for us. And I'd also like to thank Nancy for joining. It's really nice to hear from someone using it boots on the ground. So that was a really, really nice way to learn a bit more as well. And I'd also like to extend thanks to Durham Farm Fresh for co-hosting with us tonight, and for all of you for joining. So as Tracy mentioned at the beginning, the webinar was recorded, so we'll share a link with you all as follow-up, and feel free to distribute the video to others who you think might be able to use the tool. So again, thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a great night and take care.